Exactly.
Sure.
Oh,
It's the prints on this one.
just wait for you.
Is this a person that needs to sign up?
No, she's part of CLAC.
So their firewall, making that, so my husband bought the
I'd like to call the meeting to order and thank everyone for coming this evening. Let the record reflect that all elected board members are present, as well as our new student representative, Cameron Skeeth. Welcome. I apologize if I go slow. We have a new system we rolled out last time, and I'm not the best at it. Review of the agenda. Are there any changes or additions?
So want to add a discussion, you can say during superintendent's report, even though the agenda isn't structured like that for this meeting, discussion of school board member stipends.
Okay. We'll just do that after your week discussion contract. So that'll be item 5. That being said, there's no other additions. We'll move on to the public input. And we have, did I miss something? Oh, flag salute. Good thing you're here. Doesn't say flag salute. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No, my intention was not to do away with the flag salute. Next up, we have public input. We have several people signed up. I'll give everybody, let's go 2.5 minutes. Hopefully that'll give you enough time. First up is Courtney Burns.
If I can, I'd like to go after all the parents because I'm on the other side of them.
Okay. Courtney, I'll move you to the end. Next up, we have Mandy Geiger.
Hello board, my name is Mandy Geiger. I reside at 901 Dyer Road. I'm here to thank the board for helping us with our soccer matter. I believe that it's half resolved. We did recommend that both coaches not return, and as of right now, one is not, and it appears as if the other is. You guys roll out all this mental health stuff. We gave you guys multiple different examples of the mental health struggles that the girls endured this soccer season. Half the team quit. We started out with 33, ended the season with 13. If you guys are going to roll out all of this mental health stuff, when we give you examples of mental health, like a month and a half ago, it would be nice if we could maybe try to address those issues quicker. This was over a month and a half ago we started our process, and it's now just got resolved. I know my daughter is upset because she still hasn't received an apology for the way the season went, and I know there are many other girls that feel the same as she does. But again, thank you very much for your time on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you.
And you're blocking the whole thing. It's a
And-
lot of hands.
I'm guessing you guys know each other. Kelly Geiger.
Yeah.
We've met.
We're really good.
Roommates, I hear.
Right, yeah. I just kind of want to reiterate some of what my wife had mentioned. I really want to thank the board and the process of how we got to where we're at. It appears as though there's a partial resolution to the issues that I'm sure you're all aware of from the email chain that you've been included in. Board member Kindle and is it Goldner, I believe, is it correct? Graciously came to a couple of the meetings as well to kind of witness and be involved with that. And we really appreciate that because I felt like that really brought some of that emotion back here. We try to keep some of that emotion in check, and it's difficult when it's our kids, but it's it's the school district students that we're talking about. And the process seemed, at least from our standpoint, a little flawed But we worked through it as best as we could. I think that the partial resolution, my wife kind of spoke to, I think there's more to it than that. There's a leadership part here that I think is going to be addressed by others within other athletics at the district. And I think there's more to come on that, but definitely appreciate the involvement that the board has taken and the help from the administrative staff as a whole to getting to the solution that we're at currently. So, thank you.
Thanks, Don. Thank you. Next up, Dan Leopold. Hopefully I'm saying that right.
Well, my name is Dan Leopold. I live in Goldbart, 1902 Amanda Avenue, and I am also here to say thank you to the school administrative staff and to Mr. Kindle and Ms. Goldner for attending some of our meetings we had with this escalation process dealing with the ladies soccer athletic program at the high school. To what Mr. and Mrs. Geiger said, I think we've reached a partial resolution to this matter, and I just want to thank everybody for their time. Having this process set up and hearing our voices as concerned parents for some of the things that have gone on over the last few seasons. But I really do think, as Mr. Geiger mentioned, this points to a larger failure of leadership in the athletics department, because everything rises and falls on leadership. And with what's gone on in at least from what I've seen, and I'm new to the area, I have no predisposition, no buddy-buddy, no likey-likey with anybody in the community. I love the community. I'm glad we have met a lot of the people that we've met, but I have no ties here. This is a fresh set of eyeballs in this school district on the athletics program, and I can tell you that there are shortcomings and problems that need to be addressed. When a soccer program goes from 3 teams to 2 teams to barely hold together 1 team, there's a problem. And that falls on the leadership that's directing that program. Not just the coaches, but the athletic director level, because that person is who sets the standard for the rest of the programs. So I just wanted to say thank you. And hopefully we will come to a resolution. I think there's more to come, as the Geigers have mentioned. But appreciate your time.
Welcome to the Valley.
Thank you.
Okay, Whitney, I don't want to, Quinton, is that correct?
Quillen.
Quillen, okay. That's what you wrote, Quillen. You just can't read.
So again, I'm here with the soccer parents, and thank you guys for your time and input with this decision. I just want to reiterate the fact that this is a trickle effect. I know you guys heard Sean and I say that at the first board meeting we attended. It is a trickle effect of the athletic department as a whole. And I would say a failure at this point of the athletic department as a whole. Who's managing it, how policies are handled, our evaluations done, and the accountability aspect of all of that as well, our checks and balances being held accountable for. I think that everyone should really look into the athletic department and the person managing it and look at their job description. I have it in front of me. I'm gonna leave it with you guys along with the packet of the information that we've kind of collected along the way. But who is overseeing the athletic department? Who is checking to ensure that policy and procedure are being followed, hiring is being adhered to, proper policy with hiring is being followed. I just think that there needs to be an additional step added and someone overseeing the athletic department from where it stands right now, and some of the failures, yes, a lot of us parents have seen along the way, and other athletic departments have come and spoken with us about. Seems like there's some financial issues within the athletic department. And just some failures that I think need to be addressed, and I think a lot of us agree with. So hopefully the board can point us in the right direction of where we go from here and who we speak to next regarding the athletic department, our kids' health, yes, mental health, awareness, Making sure our kids are safe and taken care of on and off the field, I think is huge. And I think too, the retaliation factor that I'm seeing play out, not only with my own child, but other kids on the soccer team and in other athletics, is really disheartening as a parent, and that needs to be resolved immediately. I will not have my child or my family retaliated against by anyone within the school district. So if anyone has questions or would like to speak further on that, feel free to reach out. But I think we would like some guidance on where to go next with the athletic department as a whole, so any input would be much appreciated.
We, as a policy, we don't do public discussions of employees, so there's not much more I can tell you. Offering your opinion, certainly, and we've received an overwhelming number of emails opposed to your thoughts today. My phone has been blowing up. So we weigh all of that, and unfortunately, sometimes these things take time to do. What you suggested was helpful in the coaching position, because a parent complains. If we fired everyone that a parent complained about, no one would be staffed in our schools. So we weigh all of it and we make informed decisions, because there's things behind the scenes and there's things that we weigh that aren't out there in public, and they can't be. If you were an employee of this district, you would want to be evaluated by a team, so in public.
Yeah, and I definitely respect that. I just think that this isn't the one-off where you have one or two families complaining. Just in the soccer team alone, we've had 16. So we want proper process to be followed for us as concerned parents.
Sure.
In the athletic department as a whole, and for the people on the other side, right? We want fairness. That's what we expect, and that's what we hope.
Right. It's not, unfortunately, I don't know how to put this, but it's not a popularity contest of if half of the parents like this and other half likes this. We make a decision on what we think is best for the kids and what's best for our school district. And if it were a popularity contest, the number of emails I got in opposition to what you're suggesting far outweighs the number of people that are here tonight to speak for in your position. So we will be weighing all of it, and we have to listen to all of those parents, because you're all valuable. You all have kids in our district. And we
Yeah,
wanna make-
factual evidence,
Yeah.
definitely.
Thank you for coming this evening.
Who would you like me to leave this with?
Give it to her and she'll. And Courtney Burns.
Hi, I'm Courtney Burns. I live at 731 10th Street in Sultan. Obviously, I probably know my last name is Burns. My husband Aaron was the head soccer coach this year, so he did step down. I am here on behalf of him and the students. Who's thinking of those students who stayed behind? Mandy said there was 33 students in the beginning of the season. That is incorrect numbers. 6 students at the beginning of the season quit before most of the first games due to injuries. So those were the first 6 of the season. And then I believe it was 7 with the parents that are opposing the soccer team, the administration, and everything else. So 13 total leaving, yes, 14 parents, husbands and wives of them. But I am here to discuss the remaining students who absolutely love my husband, who absolutely love Scott, who started with him 6 years ago when he started coaching in middle school and wanted to end their senior year with my husband as a coach. And you will find no one else in this room probably more qualified to coach than my husband. You know, he is a semi-pro player. He has been playing his entire life, and unfortunately, you know, some people oppose the way he coaches because he doesn't like the opposite side of the field. That's so that parents cannot coach what he's trying to coach. He wants his students and his staff, his teammates to work with what he's saying and, you know, not have the parents' input during the games. So that's why he moved his kids to the opposite side of the field. So I just want you guys to consider, you say you have a lot of emails of opposing. I know a lot of those parents wish they could be here tonight. I have never been able to come because I feel like it was contradictory when my husband could lose his job. So now that his job's gone, I'm here. I feel like the athletic director is doing an amazing job. He's trying to do the best he can to listen to both sides of the parents, and would just love to know what endgame is for the 7 families, the 7 students, when there's still 13 students on the team who really want things to stay the way they are. So I am just here to have you guys consider that as well.
As I stated before, we're considering all people's opinions.
I
And
know.
it's very difficult because no matter what we do, there's going to be a group of people that are upset with us. And that just comes with the big paycheck we earn for this job.
Yep. Also, just to spread a little light on what the students sign in the contract when they start at the beginning of the season. A lot of the issue was the kids weren't getting playtime, but if you
It's
read the
never an issue.
contract, then, it says you have to earn your spot on the team, you have to earn your playtime, and I know a lot of it was contradictory if those kids were doing what they were told to at practices, so.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I see you raising your hand. You've certainly signed up. If it's something to one of our items tonight, I'll offer you a time to speak then, but we're going to close off now. And thank you for coming. Next up is our discussion of the Student Board Representative Cameron Skeeth. Do we have like cake and ice cream or anything cool off with her coming this evening? This is her first time here, and I
You were
don't-
in charge of that as the chairman.
you know, then you're in trouble. I don't make cakes. I would have bought one. So, if you'd like to speak, you're certainly welcome to do that, and I encourage you.
Okay. Hi, I'm Cameron Skeeth. I'm a junior at Sultan High School. I'm also an athlete at Sultan High School. I play volleyball. This is would be my 3rd year in varsity now. Something about me is I want to make Sultan better, and I think to do that we need to have a student here. So I'm really excited to be on this board to really help be the voice for students and know exactly what students need and want. Because for most it's students, before anyone else, it's students. And I believe that is the true reason most of you are here. So I think students. Another thing is my plan to really tell basically kind of my peers about what's going on here is I really want to focus right now on what is the school board. Because I don't know enough students to actually know what the school board is or what the heck that kind of is. So I really want to focus on telling them this is what the school board is and what they decide and what they choose for us and not just, people. I really want them to know what the school board is before I really tell them just some random things that they don't care about. I want them to know it's meaningful and care about it. A little fun fact now. So at school on Thursday, we had our Veterans Day assembly. And we had some really cool things happen. We had some guest speakers come and tell us about their time in the Navy. And it was really cool about that was we had 2 different people from 2 different eras. We had one from the 60s, so kind of that Vietnam War, really learning from that. And then we had some from the 80s. She got to basically fly with all different presidents, which was really cool to me because I was like, wow. A woman, first of all, go woman, I vote woman. And then also being able to kind of see her reaction and how excited she was and proud that she was able to serve her country, which I think is really important. And then a quick little shout out to a couple students is we had 2 students who participated in the essay contest, basically where they can write essays to win money. And the 2 people did that at Sultan High School was Grace Veal and Millie Brumley, which I really think is a big thing, especially for Millie Brumley because she's been doing that since 3rd grade and continue on to national level, which I think is a huge opportunity and a great big deal. So, yeah, my little spiel.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And for those in the attendance that don't know, this is the first year where we asked students who wanted to do this job, because we kind of assigned it to somebody that was an ASB, and I think most of them wanted to do it. I can think of a few interactions where this just wasn't what they wanted to do, and she actually signed up to do this and was interviewed for the process, and we're very happy to have her on board. Okay. Next up on the agenda is approval and discussion of the CFAC bond proposal.
So, give you a little background. We've got Ben Fields, who is from Granahan Architects, been working as a consultant with us for some time. His firm, over decades, at least a few, has had an opportunity to work on our various schools. To go back a little ways, Citizen Facility Advisory Committee has been engaged and active over probably 4 or 5 years. COVID hit, sort of disbanded for a while, and then started up about a year ago. So we have Heidi Dawson and Christine Olson. They're both from the committee, and they're here to participate in this. I've included several documents for you to consider, and we'll just walk through a presentation and, understand that as we go through a big transition in the board right now, that's something that we consider. At the same time, I think one of the things that we talk often about is we've been good at waiting and waiting and waiting, for the right time that never comes. And at the same time, part of what you'll see in here is everything increases by 5% every year, and that will continue. I don't see anything. So that will change that. So anyway, let's dig into this and hopefully have an interactive session with the board and go from there.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. And we're going to go through a lot of numbers tonight, different numbers around construction, around student population, around the population of Sultan and your assessed value. And so if at any point you guys want to slow down or you want me to dive deeper into something, just feel free to stop me and ask questions. You don't have to wait till the end. So we're going to start with our population projections. This Flow Analytics helped Sultan out over the summer, and they came back with a report. They looked at your current growth and what your projected growth might be. And the long and the short of it is Sultan is a really vibrant and it's a healthy community, and you guys are going to continue to grow. What their key finding is that you're going to continue to grow primarily in the K through 5 age bracket for the near-term future. And that, as you have families coming into Sultan and into your school district and Gold Bar, the people that are coming in with students in that K-5 bracket are double the amount of people coming in with students in that 6 to 8 or 9 to 12 bracket. So that's going to start to affect kind of the layout of your overall district and where kids are going to start to go and how you want to boundary. And so those are a few of the things that we're going to look at. They also took a look at the projected housing starts over the next few years. And it looks like you've got about 302 housing starts left. I know you've experienced a lot of growth already with housing and with people coming in and doing pretty large developments. That's not going to slow down for a little while. So what does that mean? We've got a little video here, and I apologize, it's a bit rudimentary, but I think it's helpful. It was put together by the ESD that Snohomish is a part of, so hopefully it should just take about 3 minutes.
As election season approaches, you may hear talk around your community asking for support on a bond or levy. You might ask yourself, what exactly does that mean for my household? And if property values change, what can I expect? So let's start from the beginning. What is a tax rate? The tax rate is used to calculate the property tax that a property owner pays. In the case of schools, when community members vote on a school ballot measure, they are deciding whether a set dollar amount should be collected through taxes. The tax rate is simply the amount of money that needs to be collected for each $1,000 of total assessed valuation to reach the total dollar amount that the voters have approved. Here's how it works. Let's use Tiny Town School District as an example. The Tiny Town School District has 4 houses, and each house is assessed at $100,000. The district held a Tiny Town election, and voters approved a $1,000 bond or levy. Because property values are the same, each household pays the same amount to reach the total voter-approved amount of $1,000. Now let's say that the homes in Tiny Town are reassessed, and now the homes have increased in value. Home A is now valued at $200,000.
Home B is valued at $150,000. Home C is valued at $200,000, and Home D is valued at $250,000. Because the assessed values have changed, each house now pays a different amount towards the bond or levy. However, the district collects only the total amount that voters approved. No matter how much the property values change, Tinytown School District is still only collecting $1,000. So what happens if more houses are built in Tinytown? Well, more property in a school district means more owners are paying a share of the bond or levy. The total bond or levy amount is divided among more property owners, meaning each property owner pays less. However, the total amount collected for the school district remains the same. To learn more about property taxes for bonds and levies, visit your county assessor's website.
We can jump past that. That's just kind of their wrap up. So with this, essentially what this means is that as Sultan grows, as your property values go up and as people move in, there's going to be slight changes in the amount per thousand that each homeowner pays. But the overall collection, what we're looking for in our bond is never gonna change, right? So as people come in, you might get a little bit of a lower tax rate, and as your property values go up, that tax rate goes up proportionately to that. And so we've got some graphs in here that'll show us kind of the total overall projected bond burden for each community member a little bit later on. So we'll get into all of those numbers. So we're
Just a second.
Yep.
I think possibly you misspoke. You said as the property value goes up, the rate goes up. The rate doesn't go up.
The rate is the same. You're right. I did misspeak.
Okay.
It's the total burden goes up. Thank you very much for the
You bet.
clarification. Yep, so we are looking at Flow Analytics. They took a look at 3 different options. So they had a high projection, a low projection, and a middle projection, and they recommended that we use the middle projection for our future planning. So that's what we went with. And so in their enrollment forecast, the way you read this chart is that students matriculate, they go over a grade and up. So kind of that red arrow shows you a student from kindergarten moving all the way up from 2023 until 10th grade in 2033. So in 2033, we're looking at 924 students in the K through 4 band, 402 in the 5 and 6, 369 students in 7 and 8, and 714 students in the high school. So these are kind of our projected numbers for what's coming up in the next decade. So if we look at that and we say, okay, how does that affect each of the existing schools? You can see Gold Bar today is over. The school was built with a 256 student capacity. Right now, you're at 330, and that's going to continue to go up, and you'll be at 385 in a decade. Sultan Elementary, total student capacity for 416. That's housed students. We're not looking at the portables here. So the portables make up that difference between the 416 and the 623 today. You can see by 2033, we're hitting 730 students for a school that was built for 416. Sultan Middle School, similar problem. You're much closer to capacity, right? It was built for 432. You're at 443 right now. It's projected to maybe drop a little bit and then climb back up. And in 2032-33, you're at 551 students. And then we've got the high school, built for 498. You're already at 621. That fluctuates a little bit as students come and go. The high school is the school that gets hit the hardest with attrition rate. So Flow Analytics predicts an attrition rate, and they look at how many students are going to maybe move out of district or shift to a different type of schooling. That usually shows up the most in the higher grades. But still, you're looking at 714 students in a 498 student high school by 2033. So, what does the CFAC recommend? We've been talking, like Dan said, for the last several months. I've been involved, and I know you guys have been involved for a long time before I showed up. So we had a lot of conversations, and we looked at ways that we could start to address some of these growth rates and some of the areas of the pain points that the district is experiencing with this student population. And our current proposal, and we'll go through this in detail in future slides, but I wanted to get the numbers up here to start with before we jump into that. The current proposal is look at Gold Bar Elementary, do a add mod on that. We have about almost $9,000 worth of SCAP funding that
Million.
I'm sorry, yes, $900 million or $9 million in SCAP funding that would assist that project. So the total community requirement would be the $29 million. That would do an add mod to change it to a K4. Then we would build a new K4 on new property with the district. That would use about $2 million in SCAP fund that you have for unhoused students. That would reduce that requirement for the community to just under $48 million for that project. There would be some cosmetic upgrades to Sultan Elementary, and then that would change to a 5-6. And then that would take some of the capacity that the middle school is facing, some of their overcrowding, move it to Sultan Elementary, take some of the overcrowding from the elementary in that 5th grade. And then we would demo the transportation building. That was a promise that was made. We want to make sure that that's kept, and you can see it's $250,000. And so that puts us up at just shy of $80 million for the bond ask. And so what we're looking at for our tax rate and for our projected and estimated tax rate, we are looking at a preliminary valuation growth of -2%. That happened this year. Next year, we're projecting a 3% growth. That 3% growth would stay in 2025 and 2026, and then 2.5 year over year thereafter. So that's the way we built our model. In reality, if we look at Sultan, the Sultan School District area from 2000 to 2024, you can see this is your historical bond AV. You had a huge dip here in the Great Recession, everybody did. But you guys have been growing at a relatively high rate. If we look at your average over that last 24 years, you're just shy of 8%. And what we're saying is in our model, we're going to model it out at just 2.5%, right around there. So we're trying to be really conservative so that these numbers, you're able to exceed them as your community keeps growing. And so what that looks like in a price per thousand, you've got your bond up top, this kind of greenish bar here, that's your current capital levy. So that would play out through 2026. We put the bond on top of that capital levy for the first 2 years of the bond and the last 2 years of that cap levy. And so you get a little bit of a stack there. And then we would drop that levy down to just 25 cents per thousand. That would cover tack and cap. And then your bond would just sit on top of that from 2027 until its maturity at $1.80 per thousand. So that puts the total school district bonds, levies at $3.55 per thousand from 2027 for the next 18 years, because the first 2 years are a little bit more variable with that existing capital levy. So what that looks like, if we look at a house that is average home in Sultan, according to Zillow for this zip code, is $529,000. Same website for Gold Bar, $459,000. So I just grabbed those. It was an average homeowner going to look at. Sultan would be $58 per month. Gold Bar would be $50 per month. The total amount that a homeowner would pay under this model, which is relatively conservative, would be over 20 years for the bond. Each homeowner would pay in Sultan $24,500 and in Gold Bar $21,000. If we look at just an average home, let's say we're just gonna do a kind of a conglomeration of homes, we're just gonna take an average $500,000 home and an average $390,000 home. $500,000 home pays $55 a month. The $390,000 home pays $43 a month. And that translates to $23,000 for the $500,000 homeowner, $18,000 for the $390,000 homeowner. And those home prices are escalated, you can see at the model rate, the 3% for the first couple of years and the 2.5% after that. So what that allows us to do, if we're able to pass our bond in February right here, we can get started right away on the design of Gold Bar. It's gonna take a little bit longer because ad mod is gonna be a little messier. We're gonna have to move the kids around a little bit and do some work over the summers. We get a little bit more of a break and then we start the design for a new elementary school. And we start looking at what cosmetic upgrades need to happen at Sultan. Those would be strategic over the summers as we go forward. And the hope is that we set this up so that in 2027, kids going to Gold Bar walk into a brand new building. Kids going to the new elementary school walk into a brand new building, and kids going to Sultan walk into a building that's been renovated with cosmetic upgrades.
Can we clarify that the Gold Bar L and the new elementary school in Sultan would be reduced K through 4 instead of K through 5?
Yeah.
And SES would become, the existing SES would become a 5-6 campus?
Yep,
Thank
that's
you.
absolutely right. Thank
And
you.
what that does here is it takes the current population of 640 and cuts it about in half to about 300. You only have 5th and 6th graders. You don't have these portable restrooms out here. The 50 acres that we're in the process of purchasing up, it's between 1/16th and 1/24th, right behind Cobble Hill, and that's set to close in March. 49 acres, $455,000, price that you can't, just being paid for with impact fees. That becomes a K-4 school with a population of 450 kids. Gold Bar, K-4, 450 kids. This is 5-6 with 300, gives some growth here, but the challenge is where do you start? And you've got to do something because every year costs are going up 5%. And there were 250 homes in the projects list that Ben didn't even mention. Stone Ridge wasn't even on there. That's across the street from Wyndham Heights, currently at 170 houses. It's got some, as the process goes, there's some challenges. And there's another one that, I don't know the name of it, but it's east on 132nd. I think it's 80 homes, something like that. So, the thing I would say also, that this is painted as a worst case scenario. I mean, there's 3 factors that could make taxes substantially less, because that's kind of the important thing is when you do this, how do you pay for it? And one of them is this was built at a 2.5% growth. Likely will be higher than that. Second thing, we didn't consider any additional population moving in. That's not going to be the case. Every time I drive through there, there's a sold sign going up. And then the third part that I think has a real chance for the first time in a long time to become a reality is OSPI is going to contribute quite a bit more money towards the square footage. And as controversial as the capital gains tax was a few years ago whenever it happened, that's the way they will pay for some of this. So right now, as an example, we get $258 a square foot for square footage that qualifies. It's what he calls SCAP. It's School Construction Assistance Program. $258 a square foot. In 2025, that will be 450. So it almost doubles, plus they're going to expand on the square footage that's covered. If you looked at the last bonds, they're not passing. I don't expect, again, maybe it's the wrong thing to say. I think our needs are more visible than anybody. But I also think that these are hard emotional decisions. And people don't always necessarily want to pay taxes. But every year you wait, it's 5% more expensive. And we have more people coming in. So there's a lot of factors to consider. Big change on the board coming up. Lots of things. And so, as you're moving forward with this, there isn't always, a bag full of reasons that are all, yes, 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 let's go do this. But one of our responsibilities is to put this in front of people and say, here's our issue. We can start in a different thing. And then when we get to the end of this part of the discussion, I also want to share what we're planning for the high school that isn't on a tax measure, because that's an important piece that we're trying to work with in the capital budget building process with the state of Washington.
I have several points that I want to discuss. There's some numbers that aren't right in this middle scenario. They're showing the forecast for enrollment on 23-24, and those could have been forecasted, but the numbers are high. We have 141 in kindergarten, 159 first. So I would hope that chart gets corrected. And I should have said first, I'm a proponent. We need to do this, but we also need to make certain we represent what we're doing with as much accuracy as we can, because there will be those in our community that will delve into these numbers with a microscope.
Yep.
Second, on 5%, the Fed's been raising the rate so rapidly to avoid a 5% increase in the cost of inflation. They're trying to get it to 2%. So I think we should take into consideration it will go up, but when you do 5% every year, it becomes a much greater number than if it's, say, 2.5% to 3%. And we're seeing it come down. It's not coming down as rapidly as it should. And the growth numbers we forecast out year after year after year, we have to make a forecast, but each year it gets harder to increase by the same percentage because we've grown already. So forecasting 2.5 after 3 years for 20 years is probably a stretch. And I know I'm giving this a conservative lilt. If 150 people move in every year, initially that might be 1%, but the next year it's going to be 0.9%. The next year it's going to be 0.8. So I would hope we would look at those numbers more closely. And I had one other thing. The rate per thousand, as we show that, the first chart showed all of our taxes, as I read
All
it.
the taxes that are attached to the school district, yeah.
Once again, I'm a huge proponent for this. We've needed it for a long time, but I would hope that we could get some of these numbers to reflect a little less generous in the medium. And we can certainly have our 23-24 enrollment start from those numbers, because that will affect the change. It won't affect the outcome. We still need to do these things. And I'm a huge proponent for the division of the districts and what you guys have come up with as a program. But we all know there will be people that are naysayers about this, so we need to be as intelligent and as forthcoming and accurate with our numbers as we possibly can.
Absolutely, yeah. And
I'm
we
also a
can-
little worried about a board that's going to change a lot in a month, making such a large decision. I'm going into it with my eyes wide open, making certain we make this informed decision as if I were going to be on the board for the next 10 years. And I think everybody else is too, but that is a concern.
Yep. Yeah, and I understand that concern, and the best I can say is I think that you guys have the heart of the community in your best interest, right? You're focused on what the community needs, and right now, if you were to defer to the future board, unfortunately, you'd miss the February
I'm aware.
bond, and so that's.
I'm aware.
That's the thing. So we'll just run through this real quick. This is merely a feasibility study on Gold Bar. There's nothing more than just can this work, and a quick sketch around what the phasing might look like in order to get you through this. You would work with your design team in the future after you pass your bond to make sure that this is completely viable. They may change the location, they may do some other things, but conceptually, you build a new wing, you move some students into that new wing, you work on the building where those students came out of, And then you move students into that new renovated wing. You work on that part of the building. You take them out of the portables and you put them into the building and you take the portables away. So feasibly, that's kind of how that could work. And what this does for you, like Dan said, is if we look at Gold Bar as a K-4, that takes you to a 450 student school that in 27-28 has 444, and then 2032 to 33 you've only got 462. So you're very close to being on the number that you need. New elementary school, the exact same thing, 450 student school. You're well within your reasonable range on that. Sultan Elementary, you can see that how far that drops down. 2027, that yellow bar represents the student population. The blue bar shows where it was. So you go from in the 600s to 359, you're well below your 416. Go up to 32, 33, you're at 402, you're still in a school that fits the population well. Middle school, you can see that reduction in population as well. Again, that yellow bar represents the projected student body. This blue bar is where we would be at without the bond. So this 2027-28, you drop down to 353, comfortable within that building for 432. And then by 32-33, those two grades have grown a little bit, and they're at 369, still a very comfortable area. Allows you to maybe think about repurposing some of the space in that school for other educational opportunities for those students. And then we've got the high school. It shows no change here, but I'll let Dan take a minute or two to talk about what he's been working on with the representative.
So, Kayla, can you pull up the document? It's in the packet. I inserted it in there, and so we in 2016, we ran a bond that focused a little more heavily on the high school. And one of the pieces of that was, if you've been up there, there's as many kids outside in portables as there are inside, and there's one science lab. That's just not adequate for a comprehensive high school at all. And so we took a look at this. The challenge with the high school, and this is where some of my argument is that the SCAP funding model is just inadequate to recognize a rural community like this. Sultan High School was built in 1987, so when it was final, it was board accepted a couple years later. And the significance of that is that it starts a 30-year clock. When you get to the end of that 30-year clock, which was in 2017, you qualify for SCAP matching money. Only way we can use it, there's about 12 million of it, is if we remodel the school. So you got to spend 50 million or even more to get that. And my argument is that's not fair for a community like ours. We should be able to use that money that it's been generated for what would 18,560 square feet, something like that, in what would be called a STEM facility. Would be between the softball field, the backside of the gym in there. It would have 4 real intensive science classrooms at 1,200 square feet apiece, and 8 traditional classrooms. That would alleviate a lot of the portable space. The cost, and you show the escalation in there in the cost. If we could use that 12 million, and then the cost locally would be either they write it into the state capital budget, the 3 million, et cetera, or you can see every year you wait would be, the proposed escalation that would go up. So, so I've been working with Representative Eslick. She's on the capital budget committee. Mike Steele, I think is his name. He's from the 112th. That's part of our new area. And the person who's the chair is out in Port Townsend. And so, this is a stretch in getting this to happen, but it's part of what we're trying to do behind the scenes, because we can't just take every single thing that the school district needs and go plop it in front of taxpayers. But I think they make a major mistake because they recognize us as being on par with like Mukilteo or Edmonds or these other communities where they can raise several $1 million for much lesser cost, because we are taxing rooftops, not commercial businesses. And my argument is you got to equalize this. The kids at Sultan High School deserve to have a lab that's a real science lab, where they can really study real science. And do something that would be similar to what we used to call levy equalization. When we run a levy, they would enhance the state contribution to a district like ours, because if you went back to this tax screen, farther you go back, our taxes used to be a lot greater in the school district than they are right now. And that's when they had levy equalization. Have a bond equalization or something, because building a facility here is more expensive to our taxpayers than it is in some of these communities to our west. Yet the kids in this zip code deserve the same education, the same facilities that the kids in those zip codes get. And they're simply not recognizing it. So this is a way to not pile it on top of the bond, but do it in addition to.
What is the state's, I think I asked this before, and I'm not certain I got an answer. What's the state's description of a remodel? How do they define that so that mathematically we know what that expense would be?
So Heidi Burkhart, we had some discussions with her about this, because we were under the impression that it was a little different than she gave us. I interpreted what she said to be even more restrictive than I thought.
Yeah, essentially it is, you have to go in and do a significant change to 1 square foot of the existing high school to get that 1 square foot of SCAP match funding.
I'll take that then, and I'm not trying to be troublesome, what is a description of a major change? Because I could argue it would be carpeting a tile floor versus, or painting a wall.
I think it's coming up to code
Yeah.
as it is today, is what I think it is.
Is what?
Coming up to code as it exists today.
And do we know what that would cost at the high school?
Well, what it would cost for OSPI, in order for them to pay for a remodel, you would have to meet their minimum. So if they're gonna give you $258 per square foot, you have to spend $258 on that square foot.
Okay, all right,
That's kinda how they view it.
okay.
So if you looked at Gold Bar, I think the cost was 29 million. I believe the match was 8 million.
Right.
So in an elementary school that doesn't have the complicated nature of science labs, et cetera, you were spending quite a bit to realize the 8 million in SCAP matching funds.
So I know we're looking towards working with the state legislature to put something in the capital budget. I wonder if they could change the description of what a remodel is in schools below a certain size, because it would benefit us the same way, and that might be an easier sell in Olympia, because kind of earmarked for that money. We have a challenge with the other part of the money, and I think that might be an easier sell in Olympia if we just asked for them to change what they consider a remodel, only that we have to spend all 12 million on that site improving its ability to educate children.
Well, scroll down so you can see the letter portion of this. I mean, this is one part of it. I'm taking this letter and this, and I'm sending, I think his name is Representative Theringer.
You emailed this to us.
Yeah, so you guys have seen this, but it kind of, I guess, lays out that we, current qualified for 12 million at Sultan High School can only be accessed if there's a remodel, and trying to make that argument to them. In the 2016 bond that didn't pass, part of the choices were made on where the existing matching money was.
Right.
To try to offset the cost.
Right.
High school that's our biggest.
Right.
But at the same time, if you look at the pressure in this school, I mean, we've got 4 restrooms, 2 restrooms on wheels.
Yeah.
Just because we grew by 90 kids in this school alone last year. So, there's lots of challenge, there aren't easy answers, and understand the challenge of a big switch coming on the board, and I think in light of the needs not changing, even though the board is, and the costs going up wherever it's going to the next few years, Heidi and Christine and Dave Moon and a whole lot of people that aren't here put a lot of time, and Ben, a lot of time in trying to figure out, how do you not just go get something new because it's something new. And that's where this reconfiguration came in, is to do a remodel of, or a reconfiguration and how the grade levels are laid out. And for those of you that, perhaps you guys all know where Cobble Hill is, or Sky Ridge Estates. There just happened to be a 49-point-some acre piece of property, literally right between 116th and 124th, that was owned by DNR, and it was in the right, it was classified the right kind of land, and so we were able to purchase it, and it didn't cost taxpayers a penny, not one penny. Did it out of the money we're getting from the developments for the impact fees. And so that.
And that's how that's supposed to work.
That's how that's supposed to work. And the price was as good of a price as I've ever seen for 49 acres of timbered property.
Can I say something? When
Yeah.
you're looking at this, I mean, when we were going through all this, and you guys have heard me say this 1,000 times, like, we all know this school needs to be replaced, but when you're looking at things, you're looking at the funding methods and what's available, and this school isn't available for that kind of funding yet. It's not for a few years,
Right.
so this is like phase one of a 3-phase plan that we've kind of worked out to go through all this whole process, and the reason we decided to go Gold Bar and the new elementary is, this is the school with all of the kids, you have to be able to put those kids somewhere while you're building this school. Like, you can't, there's no way to build a school on this property with everything that's here. So when we did this, we were looking at where we're gonna put kids, how we're gonna get around things, and also matching funds is a big thing. We wanna make sure that we're taking that burden off the taxpayers, so that's why we came to the conclusions that we came to when we were looking at the way we did this. If that helps anything.
No, I think you guys did a fantastic job. One of the concerns that I have, and I voiced it a little earlier, and I would be an opponent to this if it weren't that we have 3 board members here tonight that will continue to be on the board, because without that, you know, some would argue that this big job we're giving to a future board, and my intention certainly isn't that, but we have 3 board members, and I'd like to hear from them on their thoughts on this. So I guess we can start with you, Gigi.
I have attended a few meetings, some virtually, and the amount of time and effort that these guys put into this is insane. And I think that this is something that we really need to go forward with, because the costs are just gonna get higher. And we seem to have a habit of pushing things down the road, and we need to stop that, and we need to just do it, so.
Okay. Newest board member.
Newest board member, and I am
Congratulations.
on thank you, on the facilities committee.
Right.
I am the 390,000 assessed valuation sample. I have looked at, $72 a month to do this, and my kids are grown. My kids are 28 and 31, and I don't have grandkids. But when I look at Sultan Elementary School with all the portables, it's obvious something has to be done. Portable bathrooms on the site, I don't wish that on anybody's kids. So we know that that's an issue. The fact that we have the evacuation drill, and we take all the kids from this school and we send them up the hill, I think it would be amazing to put them up the hill already and not have them be part of the problem if Comeback Dam should fail. So I will support it, but man, that $72 a month, I'm gonna hear about it from my husband for a long time if it passes, and that's, sometimes you have to bite the bullet.
I thought I saw 43.
Oh, yeah, it's fine.
If we go the low end, and we were looking at worst case scenario, but look at Highway 2. Look at all the problems on Highway 2, and if somebody had just bit the bullet how many years ago and said, let's fix it before we throw more houses out there, we wouldn't be where we are with the traffic congestion on 2. We don't want our school district to keep being in with Highway 2 complaints every Friday and Sunday, so. I'm supporting it, even though I will hear my husband and my neighbors grind me down on it.
I want to add in too that we need to make sure that everyone knows that this was a community-wide group that came up with these recommendations. This wasn't just district employees saying, we need this, this, and this. Our community got together, toured the schools, saw the shape that they're in and the needs, and came together and said, this is the best solution that we can do now. So we need, you guys hopefully take that out there, you know, this is, it's needed, and we have to do something.
Yeah, I would agree, something has to be done, but it's a tough sell. You know, we're unfortunately a poor community. And I think we need to reassure the community members that this has to be done. But at the same time, we have to prove that we're gonna do right with their money. Unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot of people come to these meetings or be on those committees, but, you know, that's just the facts of it. I mean, I think we need to do better at making sure people know this is what's, needs to be done and this is what's right, you know, for our kids. A lot of people don't see it that way, and that's why it's so hard to pass these bonds. They just see this big number and go, oh my gosh, how can I afford that when I'm living paycheck to paycheck? But boy, if we don't educate our kids, nobody's ever gonna get out of that cycle of living paycheck to paycheck. And it sucks having to pay more taxes, nobody likes that, but I think we really need to do better at informing the community that, you know, this, one, has to be done for our kids, and two, we're gonna do what's right with the taxpayers' money and make sure this is, you know, adequate, and we don't go through this all the time. You know, there's so many times that, why are we fixing another roof? Why are we fixing this? Why are we doing that? Didn't we just do this? Didn't we just do that? You know, and I think we need to do a better job at communicating with the taxpayers that, hey, we are doing a good job with your money. And sometimes that gets lost.
Yeah, I think that we can never do too much communicating. And by the way, I want to thank everybody that this may not have been the issue that brought you here tonight and you hung around, because this is a really important thing that involves everyone. So,
Yes, our marketing needs to be better.
our marketing,
That's what
and you know,
marketing.
it's tough. It's because most people go to work when it's dark, come home when it's dark, eat dinner, watch maybe a little TV or read, and they go to bed and they have like this this belief that everything's going to be okay, and they don't know that this is an issue. Their kid goes to school and maybe they're so busy, maybe they don't get into the schools, they aren't involved on the CPAC committees, so they see all the things that are lacking that we need to do. And some people believe that what we have is good enough. I disagree with those folks vehemently, over and over, for many years. I don't think it's enough, and I think it's an embarrassment that we have as many portables and we have restrooms on wheels, but it's the cards we've been dealt. So I am a proponent for it. My reasons for my negative comments, I think we can just be able to sharpen our pencil a little more. It'll still net the same results, and I think that the division of the schools you guys came up with is perfect.
I think the kindergarten was, you know, part of what you're talking about there is we had a group of kids not show. And we don't know for sure the reason of that, and that was kindergarten. And
well, we got our data set that's wrong on that chart.
Okay.
Down the enrollment all along there.
Okay.
And I'm certain it was based on probably an enrollment projection from an earlier projection when we don't need to use two-year-old projection for current numbers.
Well, as an exiting board member, I still think this needs to be highly supported. Even though I won't be on the board, I'll still be doing whatever I can do to make sure this passes. And I mean, we've known this needs to happen for a really long time. This has been the best model that we've seen that will work to suit the kids, house them in each location that we have as we keep growing. I don't have kids in the district anymore. I will have grandkids in the district in the next few years, but yeah, whatever it costs is what has to be done.
And I think it's a situation where prior to the last few years, when the pandemic came, I wasn't, enrollment, I wasn't sure what was gonna happen. We really had no idea. And then as the building started, it became, kind of caught me off guard. And as I've gotten to know a lot of the residents that moved in, people are in a situation where I don't have to don't have to drive to Seattle or Kirkland or Redmond every day, but I can drive there 2 days a week and live in a place like Sultan that's, beautiful and a great community. And so that part, I think, is different from what I've experienced, where we've got population growth going on. And, at some point, there's gonna be another grocery store, and there's gonna be different things that happen, and the need for us to put this in front of everybody is not gonna go away. It'll surpass my time here, I'm sure of it. And,
Two things. One, you have to look at this too as, I appreciate all the support for this, but one, like even those of us that are on the CBAC, our kids, by the time this comes to fruition, this is not gonna affect any of our children. So we're doing this for the next generation, and we have to look at it that way and make sure that piece, this is the first hurdle. getting this a yes here, and then we can move forward, and the education is definitely on the radar, we know that. It's gotta be, it's being vital about how we get it out there and show the needs, and there's already that kind of, that's already there. We just need to get past this hurdle and then move forward from there, so.
Did anybody else have any, oh, please.
I just wanted to say, just for some perspective, so I grew up in the Sultan School District. I just turned 40 years old. I graduated in 2001 from Sultan High School, and I have 2 boys in the school district. So my class is significant because in 3rd grade was when Gold Bar Elementary split. So during 3rd grade is when the kids, half of my friends went to Gold Bar. We were the first class to go to Sultan Middle School. We were the 6th graders that got to go to Brandon Middle School. And it's crazy to me to think that my kids go to the same exact schools, same exact buildings. The only difference is there are just multiple portables on campus. And I really think at the end of the day, you know, you can say lots of great things about the portables, but at the end of the day, the message that we're sending our kids is like, you're not worthy of a building, you're getting this portable. Like my son this year and last year are using trailers to go to the bathroom. And that's really just, it's unfortunate. And I think that we can talk about postponing it, but I feel like if we just keep postponing it, my hope is that my grandkids do not have to go to the bathroom in a trailer or go to school in a portable.
I agree. Does anybody else that's here want to speak to this? Yes?
I live up on the hill in one of the new developments, so I can tell you, seeing all the other homes be built next to my home, that 85% of those people have children. So as much as you're worried about having to pass a thing to raise taxes, all of us are like, they need another school. I've talked to so many parents, they're like, we've heard there was gonna be building a school up on the hill, and everyone I've talked to is so excited because we are like, we need more. I have twins in kindergarten right now, and just the fact you guys had to hire, I think, 2 new teachers this year just for kindergarten alone, and you have, I think it's 6 kindergarten teachers or 5. Like, that's crazy, and they need to be put somewhere else and not have such big classrooms. So I think you'll have a better shot at it than
I hope so, and getting the new people in our community involved in this process, I think, is imperative. I mean, you have a voice, and, you know, for those that are new to our community, you, sir, we need your help. These are difficult. You have to have a 60% approval rate to pass a bond in this state, which is, it's hard to get 60% of people in a room to agree on anything. And when it costs them this much money, it's even that much more.
I got a question real quick. One, when you were going over your numbers of estimates of like what it was, the revenue that was gonna come from the bond, and maybe I'm mistaken, but I thought that was off assessed value, but you mentioned a Zillow estimate value, which is not anywhere close.
You're correct. It's assessed, and I just grabbed those numbers for a general
Example.
So your real numbers would be based off of what your
the county assessor will give you your assessment,
which is usually a little lower.
Yeah.
Quite significantly. And then second, I mean, I agree this has got to be done. I got 3 kids who are new to the area, and it's not rocket science that something's got to go. With all the growth going up on the basin there, something's got to happen. Otherwise, we're going to be having them in huts out here, in the middle of the field. But I think, to your point, Mr. Sumter and Mr. Kindle, you mentioned it as well. I think transparency and exactly what's going to go on, where it's going to get spent, how much it's going to impact people's daily lives, all those things needs to be communicated clearly. Otherwise, you're never going to get it to pass.
Right.
And I do think if you keep pushing, and wait until it's 5 times more expensive, to Mr. Chaplin's point, I think that you're not going to get it to pass. So I think that moving on this thing now would be a good idea, but I do think all those points need to be taken into consideration. Because if you don't talk about it and you don't justify where the money's going, nobody's going to say yes.
And there's going to be a group out there that puts out negative information. You need to dig into that information, because the information, I hope you saw tonight, the board wants accurate information out there to the public. We spent a lot of time and energy to make certain that we have as accurate, in fact, I'm calling out the numbers tonight to make certain they're as accurate. You need to find out the source of the information and really delve into whether there's actual numbers. There's no doubt this is going to cost all of us money. We're all voting to increase our tax base, our tax dollars, and it's a significant amount. It's significant in different ways to every family because every family has a different budget, but there's no hiding that. But when your roof's pouring water in, you gotta do something about your roof. And in the past, we've just thrown a tarp over it. per se.
Literally.
Literal, and
Literally.
sometimes literally and figuratively we have. And it's, our kids deserve better than that. My kids went through this school and they deserve better. And everybody in this room's kids deserve better. So doing this is, when you hear $80 million, it's like, I can't even wrap my mind around that. But when our budget went to over 30 million, everything goes up. I've been on the board since you were in 8th grade, 7th grade. And if we would have done it back then, I'm certain it would have been less than $10 million, which was still a big number then. But for the reason that we have a quorum of the new board, I'm certainly a proponent. Do we need to vote?
Russ?
Yes. Oh, please.
Yeah.
Is it Mr. Rodland?
Rodland, yep. So I'd like to also kind of reiterate what Dan was saying. I mean, communication is going to be key with this. And Ms. Naslin, I think there are going to be tons of people in the community who are going to be like your neighbors or like your husband, like myself, that will probably not enjoy the fact that the taxes are going to go up. But I think that if we are communicating, if we are putting it out there as to like what your presentation was today, they're going to understand the need for that. They're going to understand what's going on. I think sharpening the pencil, making sure the numbers are correct, because you're right, there's going to be those out there in the community that will look at this with a microscope. And if there's one thing off, they're going to look at that and they're going to explode it. The need is there, obviously.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing, like I said, communication, being transparent with everybody as much as we can, especially with the change-up, like you were saying, Russ. And just the knowledge that we're being good stewards with the community's money. The biggest thing I see is you have Monroe, you have Snohomish, who have already done this. What's been the biggest thing that they have done? They've involved the community. They've communicated, they've talked to them, they've got them to rally around the fact that these kids need these things. You know, and I don't think that, I mean, you see, like you said, you see these numbers, they're huge, but in reality, with these buildings that are gonna be, it's not actually that much.
Yeah, I bought my house for $170,000 in town. You can't buy a house for $170,000.
$99,950, brand new, 30 years ago. Mortgage is almost paid off. Payments $1,035 a month. So when my husband is balking at an additional $72 a month, I remind him that our new neighbors are $3,100 a month for their mortgage payment
Yeah.
in a 30-year-old home.
Perspective.
And one of the things, guys, when we have differing opinions, you guys, a bunch of you guys came here tonight with, a problem that you're trying to deal with. And I've heard people, not you, but I've heard groups that are opposed to a decision the board makes or something say, well, if you're trying to pass a bond or levy in the future, you better do this. There can't be anything more tantamount than we getting our kids into the proper educational spaces. We can disagree on a lot of things, but when I've heard that from groups before that disagreed with the decision the board made, well, good luck on getting me to vote for the bond. When they're here to support their student, it makes no sense to me. And I know many of you have worked to make certain things have happened in the school district in the past, and for the new members of our community, please get involved in those committees. I'm going away as a board member, but this is an important thing, so for the new board members, I'll always be available. I've done it a lot, and maybe I have a different perspective. On the bond committee, I'll spend as much time as I can on that. I enjoy that about as much as ingrown toenails, but it's a necessity, and we need to do it.
I want to reiterate one thing that Russ said. Just keep in mind the negative information that you're going to hear and dig into that. See where that information's coming from. Remember the information that you get here and kind of look and see what the difference is. And I know in the past the communication has not been the best, but we have tried to communicate with people So make sure that the people that you talk to, you're letting them know, hey, there's gonna be this meeting, or, hey, did you see this email? We need to get out there that, how much this is needed, and the more that you guys can help, the better. Yes, whoever.
I think, have you guys thought about doing like an open house where you maybe have you come down and do a presentation for the community and just invite all of the school district parents? I mean,
Right.
granted, the turnout might not be great.
It isn't, we just had one.
But I mean.
But we will continue to do
I
that.
mean, if you do it 900 times, and I know that seems ridiculous, but if you do it 900 times, you might get people to show up.
What we've learned is people show up for elementary school. If you have the open house in an elementary school, it's like parents are fresh and, you have your cute little kids. By middle school, it's like, that brat, I'm not going to that school. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but the interest seems to drop off, and we just had one at the middle school. Attendance wasn't nearly as good as the last one I attended at Gold Bar. But it's absolutely a great idea, and we'll continue to do that.
Food for thought as far as like getting the right information out of it.
I think we probably need to look at maybe doing, this is the hard thing, doing ones, considering that a lot of people aren't here during the day, and having them, maybe having something on a Saturday where people at work,
Yeah.
a Sunday afternoon. Nobody wants to give up their weekends, but if we're reaching our customer base, we need to reach them when they're available. And a lot of people,
Have another school carnival.
Well, and I know
Have the
that.
kids run around.
They do that every year.
Yeah, and I know that the committee's talked about it too, but not just say an open house, but hey, let's do a tour.
Right.
And let's see where things are falling apart, so everybody can see exactly what's wrong and what needs to be done.
There's a huge educational piece that's out
Yeah.
there.
that's a great
From last
idea.
levy.
And people could sign up for time slots, we could use a school bus.
We did that before.
And as you hear people commenting in the community and whatnot, like we talked about, there's gonna be a lot of negative comments. And if you have questions and whatnot, call the district office. Just call them and ask your questions, or encourage your neighbor to call the district office and ask the questions, because we are transparent. We want you to have the
Yeah.
information.
And I 100% think that that's a fantastic idea, but can I be really candid? Most working parents don't have time.
Right, that's the challenge
I
we
mean,
face.
that's the biggest, you gotta be proactive.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as I have been known to, I'm sure Dan has gotten a phone call from me or two in the middle of my workday. Whether he enjoyed those calls or not was an entirely different scenario, but most parents don't have time to
Right.
stop what they're doing and call. I mean, if we wanna get this passed, there's gonna have to be some proactive community outreach.
Right. No, it
Because while I
requires,
might make time, not everybody will.
right.
Especially
Everybody
if
that
it's
makes
talking
time, pick
about
up their
increasing
neighbors.
taxes and funding a project that's gonna cost some money out of their pocket. That's not something they're gonna be super excited about.
Well, and I'm gonna reiterate one more thing that Gigi spent almost a full-time job during the last levy cycle, making certain that all of the false information out there, the true statements of what we are doing. And it's all available, but to your point, we have to, here it is, here's the real thing. And the internet is a great thing, everything you need to know is out there, but there's
Everything you don't need.
everything you don't need to know, and it's hard to decipher which is right and which is wrong. And the most persuasive statement isn't always the correct information. That's unfortunate.
I think we should vote.
Yeah, it's a,
So the way it would work is, we don't do 2 readings here, bring it back on the 27th, we'd have a resolution in front of you. And so really all you're approving is that we
moving forward.
bring that forward.
and that still meets the timeline that we need for February.
Has to
Yeah.
be to the county by December 15th.
Okay, all right. Then I think it's unanimous that we want to move forward and bring that resolution to us at that board meeting.
I'm making the motion.
We don't need a motion.
Okay.
For this, we don't need a motion.
Yeah, we're not voting on this one, yes, but.
I think just agreeing publicly to bring that forward, and then we take an official vote on the 27th.
And a rather large group of witnesses, more than we normally.
And then, what you have right up here is, in red is the actual lot directly behind Cobble Hill and Skyview Estates, is that what it's called?
There's so many now, who knows what
I
the names
know.
are.
Oh, I see.
So there's 116, there's the lot.
All those kids are gonna have a really nice commute to school.
What a great commute to school. They can walk to school.
Yeah.
That school right there though, they're not having buses.
That's why we bought the house we have, so my kids can walk to school.
And one of the challenges, or one of the considerations that went into play in all of this is to try to, it's tempting to try to involve every single school, because you have, you know, families and community members that have different, you know, different needs and wants. What we wanted to avoid is building a new school on that property up there and leaving everything untouched. Because, you know, Sultan Elementary School, this school right here, it can't really age anymore, you know? I mean, honestly, to say it. And so by kind of redoing a reconfiguration, it's looking at the whole thing differently, so that you have, you know, from at least an education perspective, we can focus on 5th and 6th graders that are entering a really challenging time in their lives, that aren't part of a great big comprehensive school where you've got kids that are 3 feet tall and kids that are 6 feet tall, you know, between 6th and 8th grade. And then 7th and 8th grade, you get the same kind of a deal where a smaller population, you can focus more on them, so.
So I don't know the answer to this, but maybe someone does. Our kindergarten classrooms in this building, are they the same square footage as our 5th grade classes?
Yeah, they're all about, give or take, 900 square feet.
So we can fit bigger kids in the smaller kids'
Yeah,
classrooms?
yeah, but, and if you went to the middle school, high school, you'd see the same. And I think, well, it's not on this slide projection, but we have a number of different documents. If you go to our website and you look on the menu and you look under capital facilities, you can see all of our minutes from our meetings, all the documents that we've gone through, everything. And communication is important, and that's the part that, you know, how do we get this out there in a way without, you know, because you're going to see a negative campaign, I'll just tell you right now. The same place it always comes from, you know.
Before we move on, our student rep has a wonderful question.
Please.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
And I apologize for not offering you comment. I've got to get used to it.
That's a really good, that's a really good question.
Okay, so I see for the old SES it'd be a 5 through 6. So at the middle school now, they're letting 6th graders actually play in the sport, in like sports now. I'm curious how we would work with that if it's going to a 5 or 6 and then now to 7 to 8. How would that let the 6th graders still be able to play as you're wanting them to be active and get involved in sports?
And that's something I wouldn't have thought of.
Yeah, I actually did think about that, because I have become aware that, you know, more so now, they are letting them get involved. We would make sure they got involved. They wouldn't, you know, certainly there's a, you know, you have the location limitation, but you would just make sure that they were available to, you know, we added girls soccer team this year, or boys soccer team at the middle school, because we didn't have one. And
Doing it
so-
this way too, you can
Fortunately, we're
almost,
close enough.
because you've got the 6th graders that are participating, you're almost fostering those 5th graders to see those 6th graders as, and the
Getting
sports.
to go up to the
Yeah.
other school.
Yep,
and
and being able to pull those people in.
I like the division better than what we presently have. I think it's better. Unfortunately, they're close enough together, I think that.
It's walking distance, yeah.
Good question. Anything else that I didn't allow you to say earlier? All right, thank you.
Thank you guys for coming and giving all the information.
Yeah.
Well
Thank
done.
you.
All right, thanks.
And by the time the next meeting rolls around, when we have this available to approve, if we could police those documents, so those issues that I talked about earlier. Okay. All right, next up is a budget update for September financials. You're in hiding. I kept looking over there.
No, you can see around the corner here because of the remnants of the book sale, so I was just out in the audience. All right, so Director's giving you an abbreviated report because, again, September, we're a little bit behind in getting that produced. We had already talked with you about enrollment for September and so forth, but I did want to bring you the financial statements, the budget status reports for September. For general fund, $1,756,224. Fund 20 capital projects fund, $1,423,950. Fund, excuse me, Fund 30 debt service fund, $127,176. Fund 40 ASB, all areas, all schools, $209,404. Pardon me, and transportation vehicle fund, $392,667. We are working on October right now, so we're bringing the October, and we'll have a full report for October for you in 2 weeks. which will include the supporting exceptions reports and all the things that I would typically do, but just because September was behind and we have already done some of this presentation, I just wanted to kind of give you a quick overview. We did sign off today, Dan certified today, our F-196, our year end. The number did not change from what we had talked about previously, approximately just shy of $1.85 million was the ending fund balance for as of August 31st of 2023. So you can see the fund balance dropped by about $100,000 basically between August and September based on that. So this is the general fund balance history. I will be updating that hopefully with the October numbers and then making some projections out through August. I'd like to do that sooner just because we know that we are going to have an adjustment to our apportionment based on the fact that our actual enrollment is shy of what our budget was. So we're going to endeavor to make some of those projections earlier so that we can see any potential challenges, financial challenges that we have moving forward through the remainder of this fiscal year. So we have that, and then I went through, obviously giving the graphic representation. Next one, Kayla. And the only thing that I really wanted to, this here is again, the little X there is the September number, it's the lowest value there. The one thing that I did want to, the next graph, is a new one that I put together. And as like I said, in 2 weeks, I hope to have some projections on where fund balance will be on a month-by-month basis for the remainder of the fiscal year. But we do know for a fact that June is always your lowest fund balance month of the year, okay? What happens is that you have 2 successive months of low apportionment. You have a 5% month in May and you have a 6% month in June. And so you can see here, historically, June is always that low point there. So the next graph, I went through and I basically said, okay, well, where is June specifically year over year? Kayla, do you have that? There you go, perfect. So I wanted to go back a little bit, and we started in the 18-19. So the first one, we're saying, well, what are some of the external impacts that have caused some of these variations in where our June fund balance has been? And again, this is always June. So June 18-19, 19-20, 20-21, 21-22, and 22-23. So if we go back to 18-19, you can see that fund balance was extremely high. And that's what I'm calling the McCleary impact. That's when there was that McCleary decision was rendered. Districts were provided additional resources, and fund balance was quite healthy at that particular time in June. You move forward to the next year, 19-20. I'm calling that the kind of the pre-COVID year. You had a year where things were semi-normal, not really, you know, those external effects of McCleary basically had passed. And then obviously we know that COVID hit then. So I'm calling 2021 and 21-22 the ESSER impact, is that we got additional federal dollars. Our CARES, ESSER 2, ESSER 3, and so forth, federal dollars that basically over those 2 years helped in covering some expenses that otherwise would be handled by district resources, were covered by external federal dollars, so what we're calling the ESSER impact. And then finally the last one, 22-23, I'm calling the inflationary impact. Inflationary, whether it be material supplies, operating costs, staff costs, employee costs, and so forth. So you can see that we had between 21-22 and 22-23, our June over June fund balance dropped by $970,000. Okay. This year, as we look forward to June of 2024, we're going to be in some areas that are going to be challenges. The ESSER resources have been fully expended. They were fully expended at the end of the last fiscal year, so there is no more ESSER proceeds. Those have been fully expended. If we're looking at June obviously being our low month, in that we are starting at a point where if we had a drop of 970 from 21-22 to 22-23, can we anticipate a similar drop the next year from 23 to 24? The idea being is that your base is relatively low, and to sustain a drop like that would be very difficult. So, long story short, I will have some specific numbers for you in a couple weeks. June, I anticipate June of next year though being very challenging as far as financials is concerned for June. You see a nice rebound. The good news is though, is that in July and August you get a significant rebound because you get 12.5% in July and 10% in August. But it's just those 2 consecutive months in May and June that really, by the time you get to June, really do put you in a low fund balance position. So questions I'll have, like I said, I'll have some specifics for you in 2 weeks as far as that's concerned.
Where are we in looking at cutting back our expenditures based on our new enrollment.
So it's in process, and that was part of, in planning for this particular agenda, we discussed that, and we'll, just don't have real good information until Dan gets done with these updates, but there's several things in motion that are happening. We're just, not making expenditures that were planned, we're, cutting back, and part of what you'll see in my deal is, small piece, but a contributing piece, 5 furlough days.
Right.
Those kinds of things.
So yeah, we thought, Russ, that we would have a full presentation, like Dan said, in 2 weeks, once we have two months of financials.
Okay.
So we have a reasonable data set to look at is where are we year-to-date after 2 complete months of expenditures and in reference to where we think we need to be.
Right. It's now November, and we look at that adjustment coming in the beginning of the year. Hopefully, we're making as many cuts, and we have a report at our next meeting about.
One of the challenges that, that's ongoing is we're having a difficult time keeping routes open. I mean, I take that back. We haven't cut them, we haven't closed them. We're having people having to drive and work lots of extra time.
Right.
To keep bus routes going, because we're just down drivers.
Right.
And
Anybody want to be a bus driver? We're hiring.
And now, something you don't see reflected in here is there's some revenue sources that are better. One of them is our ridership is up 120 kids. That's big.
Yep.
That's a lot of kids that we're transporting that we didn't budget for. So that will, that equals money.
Right, and that in that report.
We will, yeah, we'll
Here's
look
the
at
pluses,
revenues
here's the
and expenses. We'll look at both
minuses.
sides of the ledger. So Dan is correct, that's one additional revenue stream that we've identified that we were not aware of prior to the beginning of the year. So that'll be a positive. So we'll look at, obviously, anticipated revenues, whether it be diminished enrollment or new revenue sources through transportation, and consider all those factors.
Thanks, Dan. Any questions for Dan?
No.
How about from our student rep?
Thank you.
Next up, I think, is the superintendent's contract. Dan?
So this was something we finished over the summer, and I delayed bringing it to you, just because of the 5 furlough days, as you can see in the deal there, and that will start in December and go 1 day a month until I've got through 5 days.
Can you explain for those that don't know what a furlough day is, what you're doing?
Yeah, it is, you don't get paid for the days, but you work them, is what happens. And so that is, because we budgeted for growth that didn't happen. That's part of why you see some of that. We expected 67 more students than we have, and so that, when you multiply the 67 by that, and so it ends up equaling the number that you planned on revenue that you're not gonna get. So we have cut back on staffing, some of the stuff that you won't see reflected if we've not filled positions that have become open. Hard to get a good feel for that on it, other than you take it out. And so part of what, I wanted to do out front was put in 5 furlough days.
And thank you for that, 5 working days with no pay. So.
Did this back in 2013 or 14 during the Great Recession,
Yeah.
something like that. And
Not everybody does that, and it's commendable.
yeah, it's the way it should be. And got to get it right, and that's what we're doing. So that's what I'm recommending.
Any other questions?
No.
All right, if that be the case, I'll ask for a motion to approve Dan's contract.
So moved.
Have a motion?
I abstain.
You're abstaining? Okay,
I was not involved with those negotiations last summer.
sure. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So unanimous, less one abstain, abstain, whatever that word should be.
Abstention.
Abstention. Please correct whatever it should be in the record so I sound smart. We have executives, no, actually, we're going to do school stipends. School board. I brought to Dan's attention this morning, and we're in a discussion this afternoon. We get a paycheck for doing this. It's $50 a meeting, and it's been $50 a meeting since I was elected to the board in '97. The board has elected to never collect that money. We put it into a pool and use it to pay off students' school lunches at times, and pay for things around the district that are necessary. And I thought it might be a time to look at maybe if we increase that a little bit so that the board had a little bit more funds to work with today to do those things, and not to give us an increase in pay, but to make certain that that fund is just a little bit larger. Because $50.97 would take you out to dinner 2 nights, and now it won't buy you fast food for a family of 3. So I wanted to have discussion on that. Any thoughts?
I had thought about the stipends. I think that increasing it's fine. I think we need to make sure it goes into an account that we know how much money is in there, because I don't know.
It does.
It does.
It does.
But how much is that?
Making you aware of it.
Yeah, so, and I think it would be great to use that money, one of the things to use it for would be board, like education.
We can and do.
And, yeah, doing things like that too.
We also have money set aside for those things as well.
Yeah.
This is just us donating our
Yeah.
huge
Yeah.
paychecks to
We
an
do
account.
have board training money already
Yes.
earmarked,
Yeah.
so.
Because board development is really important, so.
It is, and there is an account set up for that separate from this, so that we don't have, but I guess if that was overused, you could use it for that. Generally, it goes towards student things that there really isn't.
Is there a state limit? Because isn't there, there's a state limit on how much board members can get?
You know, I think there was, we can dig into the policy update, but there was, based on probably the allocation that Russ was talking about, if you do $50 per meeting per board member, times however many you have over the year, that would arrive at a number. My guess is it's changed. It just hasn't been something we've discussed, other than have Dan create an account code for it, divert it to that account code, and so we can look into that and see what it is. I don't know what the limits are.
Yeah, so we know what they're.
But people can, you can keep the stipend too.
The state says that board members may receive a compensation of $50 per day or portion thereof for attending board meetings and for performing other services on behalf of the school
So
district.
maybe that's all it
Not
can
to
be.
exceed $4,800 per year.
That number is per board member, because I was gonna
Yeah.
say that number,
Yes.
but I thought that can't be for the whole board, so it's got.
Well, and it's also for other activities, so
Yeah,
if
if you
we
go
do
to
a committee meeting.
Right, committee meeting or things.
Yeah.
And maybe if it is limited to 50, then I think we should do a better job about all of the different meetings we do attend. I know I've been to over 500 meetings, and that would add up to.
We need to track it, log it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's RCW 28A.343.400.
That's one I
That's
just
where it
read.
speaks to it.
Good. So maybe just tracking,
Yeah,
making it
because then
more
there's a lot of
aware.
things that we do that could, count to that, so.
I'm just gonna point out that I asked when I first started if I was supposed to, because that's what city council members do.
Oh.
And they turn in a sheet at the end of every month for all of their activities.
That's probably the way it should.
And reflect, even if you go have dinner with someone to talk about the bond issue, we logged all of that, so there was a clear record of who's interacting with who and promoting.
Let's do that.
City or
Yeah.
the school district. I absolutely think we should be.
Okay, so that sounds like something the new board can work on and make right. It just seems like, I would think it should have went up since
I
'97.
would
Maybe somebody
think.
works on something in Olympia. I know that the people working in Olympia that are elected are making more than they made in '97.
I know there's states that pay their board directors, pretty good amount of money, so.
Yeah.
And they're full-time board directors.
Executive session for this meeting?
Yes,
Okay, review of
evaluation.
Okay. That is all we have for tonight's meeting. I know Mr. Rodman, I didn't allow you to speak earlier. If you have, I can certainly give you a moment to speak.
Thank you.
I wasn't trying to cut you off, I was just trying to follow who had signed it.
I know.
Did we approve the personnel action report? Did we do that?
Oh.
Did we
I
approve
didn't
that?
see it in here.
It's not on
Yeah.
my
Not an
agenda.
agenda item.
It is, should be.
What's?
I saw it earlier.
Review of agenda, you saw it?
Mm-hmm.
I saw it on my previous meeting one, but not this meeting one.
Yeah, I don't see it on today.
And it's not in one of my things I click on in this.
I
new-
see it on mine. I was looking at it at the beginning of the meeting. Did you guys upload it before today?
No, I will,
No.
I
It's
uploaded mine.
C number 1, item added after 1110, approval of PAR.
That's not in mine. All right.
That's what mine says.
I'll ask for a
Priscilla.
motion to approve.
Or just special. So moved.
The personnel
I
action
can't
report.
see
I have a
it.
motion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? there's some hiccups in our new system that we will work through.
Yeah.
It's very new.
Please.
No problem. Thank you. Sean Rodlin, I live off of Salt Startup Road, and I was here also with the soccer parents. I do want to say that my daughter did not stop playing. She was still playing for the team. The issues that we brought forward to both the coach and the AD at the time that we talked to them had nothing to do with playing time. All of it had to do with a lot of the negativity that was happening between the team and the stuff that was being cultivated and continuing to be cultivated between the coach not doing what should have been happening with basically taking that and stopping that, and the assistant coach. Then we talked to the AD about that, and that continued to not happen. The issues that happened after our meeting with the AD and the head coach was that on the sidelines, the girls were being told that everybody's getting played because the parents were complaining about playing time. At no point in the meeting with the AD and the head soccer coach did we say anything about equal playing time. We did bring up the fact that there were many girls sitting on the bench, not playing, while others were being played to exhaustion. And that we asked that they would be able to be subbed in or subbed out so that they could get a break and be subbed back in. There are plenty of girls on that team that, and I think all the parents will admittedly say, are not at varsity level. However, when you have girls out there playing for 80 minutes at a time without getting a break, except for at halftime, there's going to continue to be injuries, which we did have over the course of the season, and there's going to continue to be negative attitudes towards each other, which continued throughout the season. And that's why we did see quite a few girls quit the team, unfortunately. And so our biggest concern was for the girls themselves. And that's why we brought a lot of this and we went through the escalation process. I know that you said typically you guys at the board level, we don't talk about personnel issues. It was communicated to us that we have to go through these escalations and it comes to the board.
Right.
So if there is another way that we need to go about that, if this hopefully never ever comes up again, I'm assuming that if we get to the board level, then that's something that you guys, as at an executive session or whatever you guys, that's how that is done.
You're
But-
doing it correctly. You bring the issues to the board.
Right. And I think the other thing that I wanted to also reiterate too is I know that in the community, and we've talked about the social media thing, I think that a lot of this can be done when we communicate. Communication, like I said, with the bond issue, communication is key. And where there's no communication and lack of communication and a lot of things going on behind the scenes where people don't know what's going on, it's where there starts to set in those seeds of resentment, set in those seeds of negativity and things like that. So at no point, actually in the meeting, we did talk to Coach Burns and say, we're not saying you're doing a horrible job. What we're doing is we're bringing our concerns to you. What ended up happening was those comments got taken and turned and then reiterated to the girls on the team. So,
Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
thank you, Russ.
You bet.
Before we finish, I want to thank everybody for staying.
Me too. Amen.
It's great to have people, and we'll be here in 2 weeks. If you want to come back.
I just want to make a quick comment. My daughter also did not leave the team. She stayed on. And contradictory to what was stated earlier, she did not want everything to stay the same. So.
I gathered that. All right. I appreciate everybody coming this evening. Your opinions and your statements, we do weigh them. We take days to ponder them and try to come to the most intelligent decision we can. No matter what we do, it's always half the people are going to love it and half the people are going to hate it. And that's just unfortunately what the position is. If we can make more than 50% happy, we're doing well.
And also, so just so you guys know, for me, it's raising the bar in the community as well as the athletics program, which is why I'm volunteering within the athletics program to continue to try and get that bar raised.
Thank you. We have executive session, so I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn to
Whoa.
executive session, please.
You're quick. It is 8:44. We will adjourn and resume
I wanna go home by 9.
in 6 minutes at 8:50. That allows everybody time to get out. Please feel free to stand outside and chat with each other if you need to do that. And we can get all of our stuff torn down. We will be in executive session for about 10 minutes, and then we will be out at
Thank you,
9
guys.
o'clock.
Was it exciting as you thought it was gonna be?
So,
Those are like.
what are your thoughts on a new elementary school?
I'm not against it at all.